There is a competition on YouTube. A competition to see who can talk about the most obscure bullshit childhood movie that no one remembers. Fucking Dougal, fucking Zathura, fucking any movie from 2006. My best guess is that people enjoy bringing up memories of these films that were probably better off forgotten because, well, it's just really easy to profit off of nostalgia, as well as that unmistakable feeling that viewers get when they say, "Oh hey, I remember that thing. It was a thing that I watched and now there's a video about it on YouTube." What an unbelievable coincidence that someone that isn't me also watched this thing from 12 years ago. What an unthinkable anomaly. Well, I'm not one to stray away from trends, so let me just pull some random movie out of my ass to talk about today. So the other day I was cleaning the rat turds out of some plastic bins in my storage room, as I do every weekend, and I uncovered a DVD for a movie I have a faint memory of. The Spiderwick Chronicles. Not to be confused with Xenoblade Chronicles, or the Narnia Chronicles, or the Chronicles of Fred. The Spiderwick Chronicles is a 2008 fantasy family film. The movie was based on a series of children's books that I can only assume were indeed read by children at some point, considering they were apparently popular enough to adapt into a film. Let me clarify it for the die-hard fans out there that I have not read a single page of these books. In fact, I didn't even know they existed until I randomly chose to make a video about this movie. In light of this, I will only be judging this film on its own merit and not by how faithful it is as an adaptation. If you want to try to tell me the books are vastly superior to the movie, then go ahead, but I don't give a shit. The film stars former child actor turned adult, Freddie Highmore, an actor who will forever be seen in movies from this era of his life and have everyone say, "Oh shit, it's Charlie from Willy Wonka and the Fudge Factory! I didn't even know he actually did other stuff." One additional piece of historical trivia about the film I find interesting is that it's a product of Nickelodeon movies. See, in the crazy, wacky decade that was the 2000s, Nickelodeon for some reason went through this period where they tried making a bunch of live-action content. They made a series of unfortunate events, Charlotte's Web, Nacho Libre, and then this one. Spiderwick Chronicles made a meh amount of money at the box office, and then it just sort of faded into obscurity. Why exactly did this happen though? From what I remember, it wasn't inherently a bad movie. It had a decent story, some fun adventure elements, and it had Seth Rogen in it, so it should have been an instant classic, come on. Was it just extremely forgettable to the point where nobody ever bothered to revisit it? Did it have too hard of a time competing against another movie from the same year with the word Chronicle in it? Well, I say we try and find the answer we're looking for by giving the film a good old-fashioned analytical review. You know, I was originally planning to do a general plot recap and basically detail everything that happens in the movie before telling what's good and bad about it, but recapping the entire plot of this movie would take like 10 minutes, and there is no way I can make that interesting. I'm just gonna jump straight into the things that I liked and didn't like. But if you really need to hear what the basic premise is, here's the briefest possible version. You got this little asshole named Jared, his bitch-ass brother Simon, his hot sister Mallory, and his sad divorced mom fighting off PS2 video game monsters in order to protect some gay book about fairies written by a dead guy. Okay, that's everything you need to know. Now, when filmmakers try adapting a series of books, especially books centered around fantasy with all kinds of fictional creatures and, like, magic and all that stuff, the one thing you can typically expect is for them to drag it out into at least 3 really long movies, all progressively worse than the last. It's like the unspoken rule of adaptation. The Spiderwick Chronicles, I have to admit, probably has the most concise pacing for a film like this. These are 5 books, all being made into 1.5-hour movie. And you really don't realize how much you've watched happen until the film's finally over. It's very easy to understand what's happening. There's rarely any confusion as to how the story's unique rules surrounding the creatures work. Everything is wrapped up with a nice little bow, and you walk out of the film saying, "Damn, I totally understood what I just experienced." I feel pretty satisfied. The reason I harbor on that point so much is the fact that not a lot of movies are really able to do that nowadays. Now we've got to talk about these made-up monsters the movie's got to offer, since that's the main focus of the story. Goblins, ghouls, trolls, old men. So many fantastic little creatures ranging from cute as a button to holy Jesus, kill it with fire immediately. My favorite creature is the movie's main antagonist, the ogre Molgarath. He's capable of shapeshifting into a human, a snake, a crow, Nick Nolte, and then his default ogre form, of course. And now, we've all learned from cinema and children's stories that ogres are actually pretty cool dudes. You know, nothing too scary, much less disturbing or startling. So what does this movie's version of Molgarath the Ogre look like? Well, there's a nice set of nightmares and piss pajamas for you. Take a moment of silence for all the kids from 2008 that had to see this face up on the big screen.
I'm an ogre! Arr!
Tell me, do you like to cringe? And I don't mean the kind of cringe that happens when you see someone make a bad post on Twitter, or when you see any one of my videos. I'm talking about the cringe that happens when you wince in pain or discomfort when you see something painful, or something that makes you visibly unsettled. Well, I hope you do like it, because this film has more scenes like that than any sort of compilation you see on YouTube. Here's a really great scene.
Oh god, no, that's bad. Jared! Don't burn those things! I told you, goblins! It's okay, son, it's okay! No, it's not okay, it's not! It's fine, what am I saying? Of course it isn't! How many?
Stop that, stop that.
I don't know, okay?
Wait,
Sit tight, I'll be right back! Jared!
As for cringe based on secondhand embarrassment, I need to address my biggest complaint for the movie. That being the fact that it's flooded with heavy-handed family drama bullshit. There are so many scenes dealing with Jared's parents being divorced, his deadbeat dad abandoning his kids, Jared himself acting like an edgelord bastard making his mom cry. I really don't think I needed to see an emotional drama about unstable domestic relationships in the same movie where Seth Rogen plays a pig monster who eats birds. Here's another great scene.
Get out.
What?
I said get out.
Gladly. I hate you, and I don't want to live with you.
Don't be mean to your mom. I'm not trying to say you're not allowed to have a subplot where little boy hates his mom or gets into arguments with his sister. Those are all just common tropes. I just really can't help but find it out of place since one minute the three kids are fighting for survival against a gang of goblin demons, and then the next minute Charlie's crying because Daddy won't call him on his flip phone and say, "Good job on finding the golden ticket, son." Now, seeing as we have a lot of emotional themes going on in the film, just how well are the performances of the actors that have to portray these emotions? They are not good.
My guy. It's him.
We're gonna need to hear that line a couple more times.
My guy. It's him. My guy. It's him. My guy. My guy. My guy. My guy.
If I'm gonna single out anyone's acting, it would definitely be Mary Louise Parker as Jared's mom. Now, I don't think her acting in this movie is bad just because she can't do her one job correctly. It sounds more like she just doesn't give a single shit about playing a part in a movie called The Spiderwick Chronicles. Every single line she says is oozing uncontrollably with the essence of, I would rather be making porn than acting in this dumbass film.
Yeah, so I can get bigger pets here, right, Mom?
Sure, get a cow. Get a whole flock.
Our main guy, Jared, is, well, I'd say he's trying. I will say that his acting is easily the funniest part of the movie, and that's because the whole time it's just Freddie Highmore trying extremely hard to not make it obvious that he's a British guy playing an American.
What are you doing? Unpacking? Why? I told you it's only temporary. Dad's coming tomorrow and he's gonna take us back with him.
I know.
But what about Mom? She can have Mallory. Oh, come on, Simon. We can't stay here. Look at this place. It's the house that time forgot.
Why are you being mean? It's because I'm British, isn't it?
I can't rag on our lad Freddie too much, though. I mean, playing two roles in one movie has gotta take at least some effort, so I commend him for that. And, you know, picking apart the acting in a movie made for 10-year-olds really shouldn't be a major piece of focus. However, one last bit of criticism I want to bring up is how awkwardly placed a lot of the film's scenes are. I know I brought up how much I liked the movie's pacing earlier, but in all honesty, This movie could have probably been shortened even further by like a whole 20 minutes. There's that many pointless events. For example, Jared and his siblings visit both Arthur Spiderwick's daughter Lucy and Arthur Spiderwick himself after traveling to some magical fairy dimension. And would you believe that absolutely nothing is gained or learned from these visits? The reason they visit these two people is to learn how they're supposed to stop the scary ogre demon from killing their family and stealing Spiderwick's book. Yet in both instances, the only answer they get is, maybe, yeah. And then they just leave and go back home. And then at the end of the movie, they just say, well, hey, I suppose just killing our enemies will solve the problem, let's do that. These scenes with these characters were pointless. The scenes they spent trying to reach these characters were pointless. The fucking pencil I used to write out how pointless all this was is pointless. Going off of that point, it feels like some scenes just happened because the filmmakers wanted to show off another CGI monster because they feel obliged to throw in as many creatures from the books as possible. One scene, here's a goblin. 5 minutes later, oh, here's a griffin. 5 minutes later, oh, here's the Seth Rogen monster. 5 minutes later, oh, here's a troll. Wait a minute. The troll in this movie is a straight-up Zorgon from Zathura. Now we have one movie no one remembers ripping off another movie that no one remembers. Now, despite my harsh complaints towards the film, I have to respect it for what it is. A fantasy adventure story about some kids who learn about the secret world of fairies and all the evil monsters from ancient folklore. And with that in mind, the movie is actually a really competent fantasy film. It has its own mythos, almost all of the lore contained within the world is explained in as rational a way as possible. There's a legitimate conflict between the human characters and the fantasy forces, but that's all it is. Competent. Not innovative, not challenging, and not even a movie capable of being remembered for being outrageously bad. It's neither great nor terrible. It's painfully average. I can sort of see why it never garnered the cult status that a lot of these obscure 2000s movies developed in later years. There's really not that much worth coming back to. I wouldn't even say it has any real nostalgic value. Not for me, at least. I would say that Spiderwick Chronicles falls into the same camp as a lot of the fantasy adventure stories that came out following the success of Harry Potter. Authors and publishers were all thinking, we gotta make up our own young adult fantasy story before these little bastard kids go back to thinking reading is lame again. And then we have to have that story made into a movie before Hollywood deems it irrelevant. It's all just a race to follow a trending genre and ultimately oversaturate the market with a million similar properties. Just like the race to make all these damn videos about the obscure films we grew up watching. Ah yeah, look at that, we tied it all back together again. Well, there's my take on the Spiderwick Chronicles. Should you see it? If you want, I guess. I don't think you'd hate it, but I don't think you'd feel like it changed your life either. My final thought on the film is that I really enjoyed the final battle between the family and the monsters. It was very epic, to say the least. Especially the part where they incinerate all of the goblin demons with fucking tomatoes.
Eat your tomatoes.
See, that's how you become the real Goblin Slayer. Just get sponsored by Heinz.